Hey, you! Do you know how to vote in Australian elections? Well, let me teach you. I am your host, David, and this is Auspol Explained. I'm here to tell you all the things you need to know about how Australian politics works. So today I'm going to explain to you one of the best joys of a democratic society, voting. This isn't about who to vote for, that's entirely up to you. I'm just going to tell you the step-by-step process. I'll also explain how preferences works and why you'll get 2 ballots. Step 1. Go to the polling place. On election day, which is always a Saturday, there will be a bunch of polling places where you can cast a ballot. These are usually places like schools, churches, and community buildings. Voting happens between 8 AM and 6 PM, so you can go vote and be back in time to finish off the Saturday morning cartoons or brunch, or remember a third thing here to put in the script before recording. A list of locations will be published on the Australian Electoral Commission's website, so aec.gov.au. Fun fact, the AEC is the official source of information on federal elections. They are your friend, and you should absolutely bookmark and visit their website. They also have a bunch of information on voting early, postal voting, translated services, and what to do if you're traveling on election day or in hospital or in Antarctica. Seriously, look at them, do it. It'll make your life better. It certainly filled a hole in my life in ways that other things just could not. If you know what I mean. Which you don't. This joke doesn't make any sense. Step 2. Face the gauntlet of volunteers. 1 million volunteers will descend upon you like seagulls and give you how to vote cards and campaign material and be like, hey, vote for us, come on, do you want to? Please? Please? Be nice to them. They're just trying to support a party that they're very passionate about. But also, you don't have to take anything from them. You don't need to accept it. It's not poison. You just don't need to touch it. Step 3. Get your name crossed off the electoral roll. Once you enter the polling place, you will be directed to a polling official, and they will have before them the sacred tome, by which I mean a list of people who are enrolled to vote. You should be on that list. Approach them with deference and awe. The polling official will be like, to vote, you must answer me these riddles 3, for I am the keeper of the ballot papers. By which I mean they'll ask you the following 3 questions. 1. What's your full name? 2. Where do you live? 3. Have you voted before in this election? And then you'll answer all these questions truthfully, because if you don't, you can get in trouble. And the AEC has a way of making sure that people don't vote more than once, because they will double check ballots. So then you get your name ticked off and you get handed 2 ballots. Step 4. Now you have 2 ballot papers. Nice. Time to fill them in. How? I will tell you. Some people forget this step and then post stupid and incorrect comments like, actually, it's not mandatory to vote, you just need to get your name ticked off. And it's like, buddy, you came this far. You can't just write down a few numbers in the most important moment of the next 3 years? That's just lazy. Not voting is cringe. Yeah, that's right. Let's just socially shame people who don't engage in the biggest democratic right that they have. Okay, so you go to a booth for privacy with a green ballot, which is for the House of Representatives, and a long white one, which is for the Senate. And you can fill them out without anyone looking at you. I'll explain why the Senate paper is a lot bigger in a moment, but let's start with voting in the House of Representatives. It's super simple. It's a list of names of candidates with a box next to them going down the ballot. Each person represents a different political party or independent, and only one person on this list is going to get elected. The reason for this is because the House of Representatives is divided into 151 seats known as electorates all across Australia. Just remember, Gen 1 Pokemon, because Mew counts. All those people saying the original 150 How did Mewtwo get his name if Mew didn't exist? That doesn't make sense. It's always been 151. Stop it. Stop with this. 150 Gen 1 revisionism, and I'm getting off track. Let me get back to voting. Okay, so each of these electorates have a similar population size. So country electorates that aren't very densely populated can cover multiple towns or large land masses comparable to small countries like Durack in Western Australia. And city electorates can be just a few suburbs. So one person from each of these electorates makes up the House of Representatives, and when a party or group of parties gets more than half the seats, then they can form government. To vote, you just put in 1 on your favourite candidate, followed by 2 by your second favourite candidate, and so on until you've filled in all the boxes. So, if there are 5 boxes, put in 5 numbers. If there are 8 boxes, put in 8 numbers. It's a one-to-one thing. These are called preferences. And I just love preferences. They're so good. If no candidate gets more than 50% of the votes, which happens quite often, then don't worry. What we do is we knock out the least popular candidate. We being the AEC, not me. I'm not involved in this process. But basically, you count the second preferences of the least popular candidate. And then you see, does anyone have more than 50%? If none do, we knock out the next least, and the next least, and so on, until someone is a clear winner. So sometimes this involves getting down right to the minutiae of just 2 people, sometimes it doesn't. So, even if your first preference doesn't win, don't worry, your opinion still counts, and it can be used to determine who wins. Maybe your second preference wins, maybe your third. So you can't really throw away your vote by voting for someone who doesn't win. So stop thinking that. Stop it. Stop thinking that. You get to vote for who you want to vote for, and then we determine who wins from there. Vote for who you want. Maybe the person you actually really like will win because enough people voted for them. You don't know that, so just vote how you want to vote. And remember, this isn't just advice for people who vote for minor parties who then just put their favourite major party second. Minor party members and independents have managed to get elected because of people's second preferences. Admittedly, not very often, but it can happen. So don't just think, even if you're a major party voter, that your second preference is irrelevant. Preferences matter, so everyone should give at least a little bit of thought as to how they fill in their ballot. Now for the big, juicy Senate ballot, and its delicious choose-your-own-adventure style of voting. The choices in this adventure are above or below the line. This is very literal. There will be a line that separates above it a list of parties, and then below it columns of candidates assigned to those parties. So what you do is you pick one option, above or below. Simple. Only one. If you're voting above the line, you fill in at least 6 boxes, 1 to 6. And if you're voting below the line, you fill in at least 12 boxes, 1 to 12. You can fill in more of the boxes. You can fill out all of them if you really, really want, but the reason why it's different from the House of Representatives is because you're electing multiple people. Normally, there are 6 senators for each state up for election, and there are 2 for the Northern Territory and the ACT each. They also represent the entire state or territory, so it can get real big and curvy because it's hard to lay it down flat in a small polling booth. You're like, and it curves up and it kind of folds over, and yeah, it's big, basically. It's big, basically. Because multiple senators are being elected over a whole state or territory, their supporters can be spread out. So a party that gets, say, lots and lots of votes across multiple electorates in the House of Representatives might get 0 seats, but they might get multiple seats in the Senate. This is where you're more likely to see minor parties and independents, and why it can have over 80 candidates on it. Again, you can fill in all the boxes or half of them so long as there's a minimum of 1 to 6 above and 1 to 12 below. It's up to you which one you choose. Don't stress, just be chill. pick the option like you best vibe with. If you voted above the line, your preferences go to the highest candidates listed under that party first, then second, etc. So you're like, I like party A first, party B second, and this party number 6. And then there'll be a bunch of other parties that you can be like, well, I just don't like you enough to even put you on my ballot. Yeah, you don't have to give your opinion on multiple parties that you don't like, unlike the House of Representatives, where you have to fill in all the boxes, and it may reach a point where you're at the very, very bottom being like, how do I choose which one's worst? If you vote below the line, you can put your preferences on individual candidates, rearranging them in ways however you want. So you can be like, I like all these people in this party except for one. Or I really like, their bottom candidate who isn't going to get many votes otherwise. Or I like most of this party and then just one person from this party, but not the rest of them. It's just, whatever you want to do. Just express yourself. That's the whole point of voting, expressing your opinion. And don't worry if you make a mistake, ask a nearby polling official to get you a fresh ballot. You won't have to answer another riddle, this one's for free. It, of course, happens to the best of us, and by best of us, I mean me. I am the best, and yet, I also have accidentally written the same number twice on a ballot and gone, dang it, now I have to start again. I've done this multiple times. Quick, myth-busting moment. Parties don't choose your preferences, you do. You choose your preferences, not parties. I really need to make that clear. It's a persistent myth. To be fair, this used to be true. There used to be a system called group ticket voting. It was around since like the 80s because, the option was to fill in the entire ballot. And when you have 80 options below the line, some people just don't want to do that. So they're like, hey, just to make it easier, why don't you just vote for the one party that you want to? Because we know that's what you want to do and you don't like other ones. So here's the option if you want. And some people were like, sweet. And some people were like, I'm going to exploit this and get unpopular candidates elected. You would just put a single one above the line. And then that party created a preference flow for that vote. This led to preference deals, which meant that some people got elected despite having very few first preference votes. We don't do that for federal elections. In fact, we haven't had it since the 2013 Senate election. It's dead now. It has been put in the bin. Parties don't choose your preferences, you do. So now when we talk about preference deals and preference flows that the parties are making, we're talking about how to vote cards. Now, remember those volunteers that were trying to hand out how to vote cards in step 2? Of course you do. You've been paying complete attention and can recite this entire episode word for word, which I want you to do so in the comments. Those things are a suggestion on how to fill in your ballot, but it's entirely optional. It's up to you how you want to actually fill it in. What parties do now is they agree to put each other second on the how to vote card material. And if you really like that party that gave you the how to vote card, but you don't have a strong opinion, maybe you'll follow the how to vote card and be like, oh yeah, okay, I'll put this person second, third, etc. And that's how they influence you. But again, that's entirely optional. If you don't fill in your ballot according to the way of the how to vote card, your preferences go exactly the way you want them to do. The party cannot control them. And if someone tries to tell you differently, you can be like, hey, there's actually this really cool, handsome dude called Mr. Auspol Explained, and I think you should subscribe to him on YouTube or Spotify. And also, you're wrong, and here's why. If you forget any of these useful instructions, don't panic. Once again, stop panicking, please. Oh no, stop panicking. There will be someone working or volunteering for the AEC that will be able to help you. I promise you they absolutely will not ask you a bunch of strange and cryptic riddles and then banish you to a goblin dimension if you get them wrong. 100% guarantee. Why would you think that? Stop thinking that. So you don't have to enjoy this episode to understand how to fill in a ballot, but at least now you understand why you fill it in the way it is. Step 5, probably. I sure hope I haven't lost count. Put the ballots in the designated boxes. Your votes will then be securely taken away and counted. Step 6, eat a democracy sausage. Yay! It's a little reward for voting. It's like Christmas, but less frequent. Step 7. Watch the ABC Live news coverage with friends and enjoy the sweet, dulcet tones of Anthony Green, election specialist. And there you have it. If there are any questions not answered in this episode, I encourage you to go to aec.gov.au for every possible bit of information there is to do with voting and elections, all in one. Thank you so much for enjoying this episode. I hope you learned something. If not, that's also fine. You've still helped the algorithm with the engagement by getting this far through it. So share so other people can learn as well. Comment down below what you would like to learn about next, and enjoy voting. Enjoy it. I command you. It's your job. You have to now. As always, thank you so much to all my supporters on Patreon. There's a link to the script in the description. I'll see you next time.